Okay, I'm muted. Okay.
There we go.
How are
How
you?
are you today?
I can't complain.
That's good. That is good. I am good. We finished an enrollment a little early, so that helped us. Helped me make sure I wasn't juggling quite as much, though I am at a client's office.
Welcome. It's Ari Rosenbaum here with that 401k virtual bunch. It's like the first time I think I've done one in, I don't know, 10 months or something like that. You know, the summer, didn't do it in the summer. Then we had the live events. And then I said, well, why don't we do it? Let's go back and let's do it. And my guest today is Michael Kirschman from Plan Notice. Michael, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you, Ari.
But of course, first things first, like I said to you before, super excited. The Major League Baseball lockout is over. Eventually, we'll get back to events and whatnot. And I got an event in Phoenix that I got to reschedule. And you see the background, I got an event in Miami, and I'm super excited about that. But Michael, everybody's got a different story how they got involved in the retirement plan business. And of course, my thing was, people ask me all the time, how did you become an ERISA attorney? Well, it's the first job I got, as an ERISA attorney making 35 grand a year. You had a more interesting, with a family business and whatnot. Can you explain how you got involved in the, how you got to the position that you're in now?
Yep, I have what I think might be a unique journey. I grew up in a family business based out of here in New Orleans. We were in the furniture business, had 13 locations and about 550 employees. And in 2006, we got the opportunity to sell the business to Rooms to Go. They were looking to come into the market. They felt it was a big opportunity, and it became a really good situation for my family because it was a good time for us to make that transition. The industry was changing drastically, and we had to make a decision either getting really big or continuing on, in our same kind of level. And Rooms to Go gave us a great opportunity. So I got into the 401k business because after selling the business and then subsequently selling a second business about 2 years later, which was a subsidiary of our furniture business, I woke up and realized that we had done a really poor job of educating our employees around the retirement plan And we had a lot of employees who, when we ended or when we sold the company, didn't have another step to go, and they were in the twilight of their career. So I got the opportunity from a friend of mine who actually had been our wealth manager, not our 401k advisor, but our wealth manager, asked me to come spend time at his shop, which is Free Gulliver. And that's how I basically cut my teeth learning the 401k side. I found it a really good opportunity to help to educate both plan sponsors and individuals on the best way to build for retirement.
And how did you get into this whole Plan Notice? Well, first of all, explain what Plan Notice is so that everybody who's involved in the case knows why this is going to be a pretty interesting thing. And
Well, thanks. Yeah. So what we've developed is in moving forward from where I just left off. Basically, when I came into the 401k industry, I've never been, a true wealth manager or portfolio manager. I've always looked at both education and compliance is where I think my specialties are. And that's because I had been an HR director and an HR supervisor in my family business. So I've always watched closely the regulations and the opportunities that plan sponsors have to live up to. So when, Plan Notice came about, because when early in 21, when the Department of Labor sort of announced or released their best practices regarding noticing, I looked at the rules of it and I said, this is almost impossible to actually execute. And so in partnership with my business partner, Brian, who's on this call with us, he's a technology expert, and he was the one who looked at it and said, we can develop a system that can basically automate the process. So what Plan Notice does is it's a service provider for any 401k plan who wants to outsource their noticing responsibility and be indemnified against all responsibility that the Department of Labor has now imposed regarding the missing participant rules. So our system walks through their process from start to finish, the Department of Labor, meaning their process from start to finish, and it records the entire, every step we take digitally, providing a compliance file for plans.
And that's just dealing with the missing participants, or is it handling other, notices and whatnot?
So that's, thank you. So what we do, we found that when we looked at the process, there was no way to just handle the missing participants if you wanted to be proactive and you wanted to stay ahead of the game. But there's solutions out there where once you find out that you've got someone missing, you can do the research. The problem is that I don't know how you find someone's missing, because in today's world of return mail from the post office and those type of items, it's just not reliable. So what our system does is we take over all the noticing responsibilities and all of the census verification responsibilities as sort of was detailed by that best practice from the DOL. And what we do is we partner with a plan and we take their census file. We basically absorb it into our system. We download it from the 401k record keeper. And what we do with that is then whenever a notice has to go out, we send it out, and we send it by email, text message, and first class mail, the complete notice. Each one of those steps requires a verification from the participant. So the participant gets a note on their email and it says, as per the best practice of the Department of Labor, we ask that you verify this by either clicking this link, calling us, or emailing us. Once we get through the process of email, text message, and first class mail, we then submit a file to either human resources or the benefits administrator and say, these are the people who haven't confirmed. Those people, or the HR department then has the ability to either go say, I know exactly where those people are, I'm going to go get them to confirm, or they tell us to then escalate it to what we call a location search, which is exactly what the department says. And that's where we do a skip trace and find their best known new address. We have a call center that outreaches to them and makes phone calls trying to verify information and gets them their notice. We have certified mail that goes out, and we have an administrative team that reaches out by direct messaging through social media. And if we don't get them that way, we then move on and do it through, we go to the beneficiary and do exactly the same thing. So our system does that on every notice that goes out for both active and terminated participants. And we do that because we want to verify that the communication goes to everyone, because active participants can become terminated participants, and we want to stay ahead of that game. So that's how we've built the system.
So how long have you guys been doing this, and how many plans are you doing it for?
So we're a new company. So we started in December, and we did a beta test in December with a handful of plans, a couple of which, or most of which were close relations to me. And we had a lot of success in December. So in January, we rolled it out more publicly. And since January, we've engaged with about 30 plus plans. We've close to 5,000 participants underneath that we're managing. And we're growing every day. I'm talking to people almost on a daily basis, both advisors, third-party administrators, and directly with plan sponsors who are really interested and intrigued in sort of outsourcing this responsibility and wiping their hands of it.
Do you know, the difficulty of, I just always find that the notice part of the plan, that's something, going back from my TPA days when, everything was done by mailing, it comes back to you. Oh, well, how have plan sponsors, when they hear this, they just think this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, or,
Well, there's a couple of things that come into play with that. I think the first thing is, to your point, it is funny. The majority of plan sponsors who I talk to, they say, wait, I'm supposed to do something with return mail. And then the few of them who are a step beyond that, they say, well, we send our return mail back to the record keeper and they handle it. So I think you're right. Return mail is is a very underserviced situation, and it's what's created this, giant amount of missing participants or orphaned 401k accounts. But I think the other thing that a lot of people have engaged with us, you're really gotten excited about with the way we do it is because we were able to build the pricing structure in a way that it doesn't create a significant cost to either the company or to the plan. Because the way we engage with a plan, and the way that, because of Brian's brilliance of being able to build a very efficient system, we do the email, text message, first class mail at no cost to the plan or to the company. The only time we assess a fee is after we submit that report of people who haven't acknowledged receipt. We submit that to human resources. When they tell us to escalate a certain amount of people to a location search, that's when we impose a fee. So we only charge the participants who we have to do a location search to. We charge their account balance, $95. So by doing that, anyone who is sort of a good Samaritan of the plan, who actively clicks the button that says, yes, I've received my notice, and verifies it, completing the compliance part of it, there's no cost to them in any way, shape, or form. So I think honestly, where most people get excited is they get to outsource all of their noticing and wipe their hands of it. But part B is there's not a check that they're writing based on that either.
So how's the interaction with TPAs? I would think that this is something that they would want to sink their teeth into, because I think that would take a load off their job.
So we've had a lot of really good conversations with TPAs. Full disclosure, we don't have an engagement with a TPA yet, but it's funny. I've talked to about 15 or 20 different TPAs just in initial conversations, and the majority of them say, noticing, that's the bane of us. We, from a standpoint of either we have to take it on if we take on responsibilities, but we don't have mechanisms to update the census files because we don't have control of that. If we change it in the 401k system, it just gets overridden by the payroll system, et cetera, et cetera. So they say that's a pain in the neck. And the second part, though, is they said if they don't handle it, they know they're telling their plan sponsors to send it out, but the plan sponsors don't. They might send out a mass email to the company, but the past participants aren't getting it, or they're sticking it in the mail and just sort of being done with it. So the TPAs have seemed to get very excited about it. And we've got a group of TPAs that we're talking to who could potentially embed our product as part of theirs and take over that noticing responsibility. But we don't have one yet. I can't claim to have an engagement yet.
What would be the cost to them? Because my running joke is everybody loves something until they have to pay for it. It's always the running joke that I have. Everybody wants to attend my conference, but once there's like $100 fee, all of a sudden, forget about that. Is there, what's the cost to a TPA for something like that?
That's the good part, is there's no cost to the TPA. If the TPA wants to embed it, all they do is they add basically the $95 fee to their fee disclosure that says that in a location search, we charge the participant that, and we manage the process for the TPA's plans the same way we would manage it for the plan sponsors' plans. So there's no cost to them to getting the notices solved. They just have to we basically just need the engagement agreement from either the plan level, or the TPA can add it to their pricing to say, we're just going to charge the $95 when we have to do a location search and a $200 fee when we do a beneficiary search.
And how often do you think that's going to happen? I would assume that you've guessed what you think the percentages are going to be. People can't be located. What's
yeah. So what we've seen so far in our rollouts is on the initial outreach, when we do either our first notice or when we do our first address verification campaign, then that's when we have, we do have a spike, because it's a first time, and we send out a lot of information about us, being part of the plan. All of our notices go out with the plan information on it, but overall, the first one is typically the biggest one, and then it starts to dwindle. What we're seeing is about somewhere in the neighborhood of about 10% of the employee population tends to not respond on the first one, and then it tracks down somewhere into the neighborhood of 3 to 4%. Obviously, the ex-participants are the ones that are harder, are the ones that we're tending to locate more, though there are some active participants that at times, especially in larger companies that we manage, we have multiple locations, that we're having to track down some of the active ones also.
Is there a pushback from the employees once they get like an email? It's always funny because, emails to me sometimes are like just something that I just find difficult to deal with, especially with the pushy people trying to sell me something I don't want to buy.
So first of all, the email comes from the plan. Oh,
Okay.
huh?
So
So first of all,
how does it come from the plan? So what would the
yeah.
subject?
So, well, let me restate. I'm sorry. It comes with the plan. It's labeled from the plan. So the email comes out with the plan name on the top. It doesn't come out with the header doesn't say plan notice. It says, Michael Kirschman's 401k plan, and it has the person's name on it. And we disclose all of the information. So we feel like we're not as spammy as someone who would say, if you're interested in ABC, click this button. We say, here's the information we know about you. Please verify it. So by doing that, we found that we're a little more direct, and we show our cards that we know who they are. We have gotten a couple of emails into our info box that'll say, is this spam? Which we can easily respond back to and say, no, it's not, but there's some people who are concerned, and I respect those people who don't click links without checking on it. But we do try our best. We send out multiple pieces of information when we engage with a plan, both from our side, and we ask human resources to send out a note that says, we've engaged a new service called plan notice. Here's what they're going to do. Be on the lookout. So we try to get as far ahead of it as we possibly can to try to avoid that concern over the emails and text messages. But even if they ignore the email and text message, they're going to get the full notice mailed physically through first class mail to their home. So even if they skip those first two steps because they feel like it's spam and not what they want, they're still going to get the letter that comes that when they open it up has their 401k notice.
This to me, this type of program seems to be like a no-brainer to me. But what is like when you come up with an idea that is the greatest idea, and you get pushback from plan sponsors like, I don't know if I need this. What's the response for the ones that for some reason don't think that this is something that they want? What would be the pushback for plan sponsors and maybe TPAs?
I think that there's the first pushback that we receive a lot is not as much pushback, it's a delay, but it's as we live in all of our worlds when it comes to working with plan sponsors. There's committees, there's ownership, there's leadership that you have to go through to get approval. So I think that one of the hard parts about this is that this is not a known best practice amongst the plan sponsors. Most plan sponsors think still today, if they mail out their notices, they've checked their box. So a lot of plans will say, well, we think we're doing enough as it is, and we'll accept that. I don't, personally, I feel like we offer them a solution that doesn't cost them anything to do it, but that's one pushback. The second pushback we get is that many of the plans do believe their record keepers or administrators are doing this for them. And my answer to them is I'm happy for them to do it for you. And if they're doing it with an indemnification, you should keep doing it that way. But if they're not indemnifying you against the risk, you should call us back and let's talk about it. So those are really the two big objections we get is, one, do we really need to do this? Because we don't believe, we don't know that there's a rule. And two, we feel like our plan sponsor or our record keepers or our administrative team are already doing it.
Yeah, that's always going to be the difficulty, even in my practice. When I started, I can't believe it's 12 years next month on my own. Big part of what I do, helping plan sponsors out, what requires is an education as to why you need an ERISA attorney. We always had the plan sponsors who think everything's perfect. My TPA says everything's fine. Well, TPA is giving you a self-serving statement. And I don't think they realize exactly what they have to do in terms of, the fiduciary function of the plan and being the plan fiduciary and dealing with missing participants, which I think is something that, it's always been aggravating. It's always aggravating to me when you're terminating a plan and you got to get those employees out of the plan by 12/31 to avoid that 5,500. Is this something that you've, pushed? Have you had conversations with people at the Department of Labor? Have you talked to anybody in the industry? Because to me, this just sounds like, a great tool.
So not the Department of Labor. We've had some really good conversations with experts in ERISA counsel like you. Bruce Ashton has helped us. We've had conversations with Jason Roberts. We've had conversations with a lot of a lot of those guys. We've talked to a lot of sort of the compliance guys in the industry who might not be ERISA attorneys, the ones who act as either, outsourced fiduciaries. I've had, long conversations with Pete Swisher about it. I've had long conversations with Jeff Atwell and with Larry Crocker and guys like that, David Donaldson. And a lot of them who live within sort of this fiduciary compliance world are really intrigued with it. And some of those are the people who are getting us, who are engaging us at this point in time. And then we've talked to a group of record keepers and third-party administrators about it, especially sort of the smaller or mid-tier of the record keepers who feel like this is an opportunity for them to enhance their services and improve what they're offering to their participants and to advisors and plan sponsors. Again, we're in early phases of a lot of those type of conversations, but there's definitely some interest in and understanding of a need for it.
So basically your process, it seems to be very easy to sign a plan on board because it's not something where you have to get access to, for example, their website and, the TPA's website and get on as an extra, login and whatnot.
3 signatures is what we tell people. 3 signatures, a 30-minute meeting with the plan sponsor, and an email out from their HR department. I mean, it really, basically, what we ask for is we ask for an engagement agreement signed. We ask for a letter giving us rights to talk to the record keeper around the noticing and the census data. We ask for to be able to talk to the TPA where necessary. And then we ask for a 30-minute conversation to walk the key players inside of the company through what we're going to do and how we can, how we're going to perform.
No, I mean, to me, again, I just think this is a no-brainer, but, there's, the industry's always, people come up with some great ideas. And, I feel the only negative is dealing with plan sponsors. They are reactive. They are not proactive. Like I said, for years, I've been, doing a plan review, $750, pay for plan assets. I probably count on 2 hands how many I've done in the last 12 years. It's just, that's the only drawback, I think, to the business, because, you have, your clients don't understand why they need you. And it's just, that's going to be the problem with anybody, whether you're a TPA or whether you have a fantastic solution like yours. That's what you're up against. But I think that, working with TPAs, to me, a TPA, they would love this to get, one thing off their back. Because I tell you, I think that notices, I think that that's one area the Department of Labor has not really ratcheted up, enforcement. I just think that that's one area. And I think that plan, it's my ESPN is probably going to tell me the lockout is over again. With the plan, they're going to, I just think that that's an area the Department of Labor has not really been concerned about. And I just think that participant notices, I think dealing with missing participants, I think plan sponsors really need to tackle it because, with so many requirements being a plan fiduciary, I just think that's a liability. It's a liability pitfall out there for them not to, concentrate on dealing with missing participants and make sure they get the notices and whatnot and all that kind of stuff.
I'm obviously in agreement with you, though it's self-serving in this point in time. I just really believe that the Department of Labor is going to continue to focus on this area and continue to look at it from an enforcement mechanism for 2 reasons. One is they do want to protect all these orphaned accounts. But the second is because from a just direct point of view, it is low-hanging fruit for them in the case of an audit. And I know from everybody I've talked to, Department of Labor doesn't show up at a 401k's office to walk away empty-handed. They go in knowing that they're going to try to find, something that's not working right within the plan. And I think the noticing piece is a big opportunity for them to look at. And I think that if you ever, a plan that has a service like ours if they ever get audited and someone can say, here, let me email you the whole entire compliance file from 2022 that shows all of the notices that went out, all of the steps we took, and all of the digital recordings of conversations and, green cards and et cetera, and sends it to them, I think they back off pretty fast from that because the box is checked.
Oh, exactly. I think that is a process. You can, if you could show it to them, here it all is. It just closes down the door for that, line of questioning. Because I've been through Department of Labor audits. I'm actually going through one now, which, if the plan sponsor doesn't play ball, it's going to be a criminal matter. But it's just, these are questions that 10 years ago they never asked. They never bothered to ask, how'd you hire your plan fiduciary, what's your investment policy statement. And I've noticed now they're asking questions about missing participants and what they should do.
Ari, another thing that I've been hearing, and again, I don't know if you've heard the same thing, but the third-party auditors are telling me that when they go to the AICPA meetings, where they basically go learn, what the hot topics are from the DOL, that in 2021, this was the topic of conversation at the AICPA meeting. And with the shift of responsibility being put on these auditors to actually do some real digging, as opposed to just sort of checking boxes and sign today, I'm being told by some large audit firms that, they're going to have to start looking for this and making notes where there's deficiencies and noticing.
Yeah, I mean, I have a friend of mine who is an auditor, and Department of Labor is putting the squeeze on them in terms of, their operations and what they're doing and whatnot. So it's just obviously a concern for them as well. It's just something that they have to be concerned with and probably, have to deal with on an audit and talk about the process in place. Because I just think that these notice things are just, something as simple as, change of investments, or plan information on the investments. It's just, that's something that, if it darts back, it bounces back. Again, like I said, working at a TPA, I can tell you that they don't handle the bounce mail very well. I don't think that there's follow up at all. At least from my experience working for two TPAs. I do have a question, of course, from Mike Webb, of course. Do you find out if people have died / provide notice to beneficiaries as part of the process as well?
And yes, so as part of when we do a location search, so after we've sent out the initial outreach, when we do a location search and we do our skip tracing to try to find best location, as part of that process, it does an obituary search. So if that social security number pings against someone who has unfortunately passed away, then immediately we skip to the beneficiary piece of the puzzle and go out and outreach to the beneficiary. So yes, we actually clean that up in our process and notify plan sponsors of that type of situation, of a passing of a participant, which is not, I'll tell you, I've interacted with plans that have people who have passed away that the plan sponsor never knew about because they hadn't been employees for 5, 6, 7 years.
No, this is great. And like I said, I just think it's a no-brainer. Again, I love great ideas. And I think this is one of the best ideas that I've heard in quite some time. I just think that, again, the only caveat is dealing with plan sponsors who don't understand that this is something they need to do. And to me, people have great ideas. They come up with great programs, but then they scare people away with, huge sign up costs and whatnot. And what you think should be something that should be for free or non-cost to the plan sponsor, there's a cost involved. And that, the fact that you're just going to hit people for their accounts when they're missing and all that stuff, to me, it just sounds like a can't lose proposition for plan sponsors.
Well, that's what we're hoping for. Having spent some time in the industry, I was told once by someone that they said, a lot of business owners will pay as much as $500-600 a month to help people with their health insurance, but basically but their 401k contributions sort of limit out at somewhere in the neighborhood of a couple $100. So if you show up with a service, no matter how good it is, if it has a lot of expense that it's going to add to either a company or a plan, it's not going to get through. So when Brian and I really worked on building out the right model for plan notice, we felt that it was very important to build it in a way where the economics would not impede the utilization of it. And I think that's the feedback we're getting. The fact that we can absorb all the noticing responsibility for a plan without a single penny of cost to them. And we make our money on basically the people who either have bad information, who need to be found because their money is basically at risk of being lost, or people who just outright ignore the outreach. We feel like we're funding our business on the people who we're serving more than on the people who we're not serving.
No, I think that that is a great point because, like I said, I'm not going to say it because I have a big mouth and I'll get in trouble. But I've come across a couple ancillary programs that would work and integrate with a 401k plan. But once they start saying that there's a charge, even somebody like me who understands there may be a need for it, to me, it's like, I don't know why plan sponsors would sign that. You're just going to scare somebody away. And these are some great ancillary programs. But once I hear that there's a cost involved, I'm like, I don't know anybody's going to sign. Why I think that you really hit the nail on the head in terms of how you're going to offer it, and like I said, that's why to me it's a no-brainer. Once you start telling somebody there's a cost per head and this and this and that it's going to come out of the plan sponsor's pocket, then it's no longer attractive to them.
Great. I agree completely.
Any questions more from the audience? Michael, where can they get more information about Plan Notice?
Terrific. Thank you, Ari. So our website is www.plannotice.com, which is pretty easy and straightforward. And if you want to just do your own due diligence, we've created plannotice.com/why, which walks you through the 3-minute basically explanation of why it was created. It has a link directly to the Department of Labor best practices. It has a link to the report showing the $1 trillion worth of orphaned accounts. It has a link to the explanation of the fines and fees that the Department of Labor imposed in 21 around this area. So that's the best place to go. And on there's an info link. If they want to click a button, it goes an email directly to me, and I'll get back to anybody on the call or who's interested in reaching out to us about how we can potentially help either their plan or their plans, or just work together with them.
I appreciate you being here, and I wish you a whole lot of luck because, like I said, this is a good idea, a great idea, and I hope that plan sponsors realize that.
Well, we really appreciate it. Nari, I appreciate so much you giving us the time and letting us join your group, and welcome back to having these meetings again and actually getting to do your in-person meetings coming, and congratulations on baseball being back. I know that's important to you. So I really thank you so much for involving, for inviting us.
Your old son who's texting you from school if there's a agreement in place for the lockout, it's a daily, and trying to have these events. Like I said, we will be in Miami on June 24th, and we will reschedule Phoenix for sometime in May. I couldn't do it April the 8th. So hopefully we'll have it, and everybody go to that 401ksite.com for further information on all our events, and these little bunches that we'll continue to do. So thanks again, and take care.
Thanks, everybody.